Hello guys, this is Steve here from Review Shark,
Hey, what's up, Benchard? It's your main man Brian here.
and this is the second podcast of Review Network. And today's topic we're going to be discussing is Harry Potter. First of all, I'd like to ask you to tell me your favourite Harry Potter film. Sorry, no,
Fav-
Harry Potter book first. We'll go for the books first, then we'll go to the movies second.
See, it's weird. It's unexpected. It's actually The Order of the Phoenix, just because of the sheer length of it. Like I've got them all stacked up in front of me, and it's so big. But at no point was I bored. I just got a lot of respect for that. On a literary point of view, it's very good.
Okay, from a literary point of view, I mean, I respect your opinion there, but I mean, I'm not quite as interested. I don't care about the length. I mean, I'm more interested in tense stories, and it wasn't tense. Most of the way through, I just found myself it kind of going away from the main point of the story, and it started to bore me a little bit. But it
Yeah,
wasn't.
in terms of enjoyment, I'm gonna have to go in on purely on enjoyment. To be honest, it's for me on the book term. It's Chamber of Secrets. Like there's so many that I love. Goblet of Fire, Prisoner of Azkaban, but purely on enjoyment, Chamber of Secrets.
Okay, right. Yes. Okay. That's. I mean, I respect you. I respect that point there, but at the same time, as I can't in good favour say that the Chamber of Secrets was. I think the most tense one in the series has got to be the third one because there was always a sense of unease about what was going to happen, and there was it when it found out that Professor Lupin was part of his friends of Sirius Black. It was a massive turn of events, and I was I was kind of surprised because it seemed to be it was the first twist in a book I'd actually read at the time I read it. Um, I was very very entertained. I mean, I'd like to hear your take on it. The number three. I'd like to hear your take on that.
Yeah, the book Prisoner of Azkaban, I really, really, really liked. Like, I really enjoyed it. Now, I can't say the same about the film, unfortunately. I know we've got different views about that. But yeah, I love the Prisoner of Azkaban book. One of my favorites.
Yes, I mean, I'm very biased towards the movie because it's directed by one of my favourite directors, Alfonso Cuarón. I've always liked Alfonso Cuarón's films. A shining example of how he can make a tense storyline is go watch Gravity. That was that was miles better than it had any right to be. Even though some people really disagreed with me, but for some reason the Academy agreed with me. Um, but the movie itself, I thought it was tense. It was tense all the way through the movie, and I was extremely entertained and extremely happy about it because it was exactly what I wanted to see. I mean, some people say, and it was also because it started off being turning the film series at that point turned very dark, and I like it when things are going dark because it means there is a sense of we don't know what's going to happen, we don't know who to trust, what's going to happen, how long it's going to be a problem for. And I just felt it was extremely good writing, and also if you look at it, I mean, there's a channel on YouTube that I watch which I can't name and I can't remember, but I know they were doing 100 and something facts about Harry Potter, and they were saying that the third one it had some little Easter eggs to give you an even bigger sense of unease about it, so you didn't know what was going to happen. Now, I mean, I'm a great lover of lots of films, and the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban stands tall as one of my favourites.
Yeah, see, I understand that, but the thing that got me with the film is that, in comparison with the other ones, see, the first two are quite light-hearted,
See, I
which
just
again is fine. But the thing is, the third one was too much of a dramatic shift, and I think that they saw that. Look, the other books after and films past Prisoner of Azkaban had darker themes than the first two, but it balanced it better. I don't know. I think the third one was just. I mean, the third one is the darkest one, cinematically, and I just think that the other one's got the balance more right. It was too much of a polar difference to the other two. Not that it's bad, but it
I
was
don't I
difficult watching it, especially when I was younger, going through that.
I mean, I disagree with you actually by saying that's the darkest one. I very much disagree with you. I actually thought the darkest one was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Sorry, no, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince was the darkest because of what it was trying to do. It was a very depressing, dark film, and David Yates, the guy who directed it, did an absolutely fantastic job of showing that in the movie. He, the dumb scene in the scene, what is it? In the cave where they're trying to find the Horcrux. That scene alone was dark enough and disturbing enough to be on the top 10 list of disturbing films that year. I mean, actually, I think it actually scared me more that year than watching Paranormal Activity did.
But it was embedded, like the rest of it was embedded in a sense of like the same magic and fun that the other ones had. Whereas in Prisoner of Azkaban, I don't really know, there was nothing like magically captivating besides maybe the hippogriff or something. I don't know, like I guess this the tone of it was maybe I don't know. It felt weird.
I mean,
It did feel
I was way more captivated by the third one than I was about the others. But I wasn't. The one bit that I didn't buy in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, there was only one scene in that film I didn't actually buy, which was the scene with the Dementors. They're at the other side, and it's all about time turning. I thought that was a bit lame.
yeah, time turning was weird, and they acknowledged that by destroying all time turners in future books. Like it's good. It was interesting for what it was. I thought that was one of the best parts, but the implications for the future was just too much. Like I think they just messed up there. They should have made it like either like a limited usage thing or just forgot about it completely.
Okay, but I mean, if you say about how it should, we should have, they should either use it or forget about it. I completely understand that. At the same time as I don't think that's practical in the universe. I think there's a reason these things exist is because there's a magical object, and this thing is a magical object, so therefore it should, in all respect, stay in the books. But I think J.K. Rowling, even J.K. Rowling herself, admitted that she thought the time turner thing sounded a bit ridiculous in the end when she had finished writing it, and she thought it was goofy and it fit the tone of the book well. But when she said she watched the film, she said she didn't think it fit the book well. Sorry, no, fit the film well. What do you think?
I think they should have handled it differently. I think they should have made it a spell that once cast, it damaged the wand in a way that it couldn't be repaired. Like, some level of intensity to that, the immense power. I think it should have had implications, or, you know, like with Expecto Patronum, it takes an emotional level, because it requires you to be all happy and stuff. I think that it should have taken its toll on the wizard and witch themselves, or the wand. It should have been more than just let's turn this and we can just fix everything. It should have been more than that.
Right. Okay. So your favorite book is the fifth one. I completely disagree. My favorite book's the third one, and the favorite film's the third one. But I want to talk to you, question mark, about Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or you guys in America, it's the Sorcerer's Stone. Um, what did you actually think of that book? Did you actually think the book was actually any good? Did you think the film was any good? And does it hold up today?
Well, on a visual point of view, in terms of the film, I think every single aspect of it holds up, except for maybe like the troll. Like it doesn't look unrealistic, I guess, but it definitely looks goofy, like compared to like the other things. But I think it's hard to say if I think the book was any good in terms of first impressions, because I'm not a newcomer to it. I saw the films, then read the book, so I kind of had that image in my head that this is a good, successful series. There's a reason it's sold. I thought it was okay. It was a good companion to the films for me because I watched the films first.
Okay, and I want to talk a bit to you about the expanded universe of Harry Potter.
Like Pottermore and whatnot.
Yeah, and I also want to bring up Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Now, I mean, I I when I when I heard they were making Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, I thought, oh God, if J.K. Rowling wants to make a bit more money, and also I think because Warner Brothers wanted to make more money because Harry Potter is possibly their best, most successful franchise ever. And I mean, what are your first of all, what are your views on the making Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them?
Well, I've expressed this in like the past and whatnot, but I think I've got a big problem with like prequels because no matter what happens in that film, it can't be that dramatic because it's never mentioned in future series. Like, if the Wizarding World came into collapse at some point in the Philosopher's Stone to the Deathly Hallows, someone would have said, "Oh, do you remember when this happened in the past and it was a massive turning point in the Wizarding World?" Which obviously no one mentioned. So, no matter what happens in Fantastic Beasts, it's not going to be life changing or world ending. It's just going to be that one little contained thing, which is fine. But if they're going to, ride the success of the other films, it should at least have a bit more of a corresponding connection.
I mean, for me, in terms of criticism, people are saying we're going, us critics, everyone's going to compare it to the first few Harry Potter films. I just said, but how can you connect? How can you? Because they're not connected. The only way that they're connected is that apart in the Harry Potter universe, that in the Harry Potter universe, it is mentioned that Harry had to read the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scringer. That's the only thing that really ties it in with Harry Potter. I mean, yes, it's magic and all that sort of stuff, but otherwise, there is nothing. It's not Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts. It's just, you know, it's based on a book that Harry read. Now, I'm not sure. There was always talk about this that Harry Potter. It was at the end of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Harry Potter was going to appear at it, reading this book to his son, which then after that it led on to the next Harry Potter adventure. Now, I have a very big problem with that because I feel like that's just making it us seem lame, the audience. That just tells us, that they are trying to milk franchises dead. And that
No,
I
that
have a
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter though, because no matter what the intent is of making the film is, if someone like look, if this was not connected to the Harry Potter universe, I guarantee it would have made like it's not come out, I don't think yet. But on the box office, take the money that it makes. If it wasn't connected to Harry Potter, I don't think it would have seen half of what it will go into. It's making more money from that name. So I think fan service, it's gonna happen. They're gonna make a lot of money because of the name it's associated with. So if they're gonna milk it, why not? They're doing it already. You
okay.
may as well make it seem like part of that universe.
Okay,
Don't
well,
trick the audience.
I understand. I genuinely understand where you're coming from there. I mean, I'm one of those people that has a problem with this because I don't like it when people who make franchises, take a break for a while, then come back and try and milk it for more money. I don't particularly like that because number one, there's no guarantee. I mean, this is the problem. Now, there was a discussion that I had with one of my friends the other day, which was about, do you think it's a surefire thing. It's going to make a lot of money, the first one, but the question is, if the first one's successful but the film isn't very good, what was going to happen for part two and three? Because does that mean there'll be an extensive drop off, and then these films will be considered a failure, like The Hobbit was? The first Hobbit film took a boatload of money, and the second one, it started gradually declining because people realised the films weren't actually that good. I mean, I think Warner Brothers definitely needed to rethink what they were doing with The Hobbit because Hobbit was pants, and it was kind of silly. And I mean, with Harry Potter, fine. It's just short. It's like I think it follows on with the same formula where they're saying that, oh great, the Lord of the Rings, it's coming off the back of the Lord of the Rings as the Hobbit, but we're looking at a film which is so subpar. I mean, Warner Brothers were a bit silly with that, but I mean, But the question I want to ask you, Mr. Brown, is what what do you think's going to happen if this first film's a failure?
Nothing is. that's going to be it. I doubt they'll look. They'll probably try and make a second one, but will they go for a third one if the second one's a flop? No, I
The
don't
thing,
think
the
they
thing,
will.
the thing is, they've already announced it's a trilogy, and the first one's finished production, and the second one's already gone into production. So I feel like they're putting their eggs in their basket way too early. I
Yeah,
mean, that's just my opinion, but I mean, I think if I look at it and say, what happens if this is another, Hobbit movie? What is going to happen? This franchise that I have loved for so many years could be trounced by the fact this movie could be terrible.
I think that they're being a bit too overconfident. They look. I've got no doubt that in any of these films, no matter what quality, there will be some fans from way back, in the Harry Potter books, that will go and see it no matter what. That's fine. They can bank on that safely. But the new audience, the ones that were born, you know, I guess post Goblet of Fire, post Half Blood Prince, they're not going to see it. And even if they do, they might see this first one, but then if they see the second one, they're going to think, oh, well, it's just the sequel to that one bad movie that I didn't like. They're going to lose money eventually if they keep. They can't bank on the nostalgia long term.
Yeah, I this is where I completely totally agree with you. I think they have been a bit too, forward with it. Um so we're going to move on to the next topic, and the question, I'm not sure if you've watched any of the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Have you seen all of them?
I've seen the first one and Ghost Protocol and what was it, Rogue
Rogue.
Nation?
Right. I want to ask you the question: are the films that they've made so far? I mean, I've seen all of them. I mean, Mission Impossible one was really good, Brian De Palma film. Second one wasn't as good. The third one was kind of getting better. The fourth one was epic in what it was trying to do, and then the Rogue Nation was bringing it back to the TV series. Now, all these movies have been a box office hit. One question I want to ask you is, why do you think these films are such a hit? I mean, the story isn't really there; it's action. Why do you think audiences go back and see these films again and again and again when they know all they're going to get is the same action movie it was pretty much the last time?
Well, I think lack of an alternative could be a big part. Like, what do audiences have nowadays? They've got the new Disney films, the Marvel films. Then what else? There's not that much in terms of entertainment. And I think that with movies like this, it's kind of got that James Bond feel, the genre. I think they just kind of want something like that. There's not much choice nowadays, is there really?
Yeah, I understand and I agree that. I also think it's because Tom Cruise is in it and because Tom Cruise knows how to sell a movie to people. He's a believable action star, and also he seems to do quite a lot of his own stunts. And some of the stunts they try and pull off are extremely ambitious. Um, the example of the one in Dubai where he climbs up the side of the building, that was actually him doing that, and that was he's very good. And they also for Rogue Nation where he's holding onto the side of a plane, that was
Yeah,
very
that's
believable.
amazing. That's amazing.
I think it could be something to do with that as well. But there was a talk earlier on that there is going to be another Mission Impossible film. Where do you think they're going to go with it?
It's difficult to say because I think that what they should do is not replace him. There's no replacing him. But I think they should put him in a role of authority, if that makes sense. Training the future people, but not in like a corny way. I don't really know. There's not much. They've got a formula. That works. But I think that if they wanted to try something different, they should bring in some new people to interact with the current people because it's not going to last forever. He's a great guy. He's a great action star, but he's not exactly getting any younger. I think they should expand the world that they've created because they've done it so well and it's been
Yeah,
successful.
yeah, okay, all right, I understand. Yes, the good response there. I mean, I personally think that this franchise can go. I think they can go almost anywhere apart from the fact that uh, they've done so many ambitious stunts. It's becoming hard work to find stunts they can safely do now. So I feel like the next Mission Impossible is going to be focused on, tension between certain characters, and like Rogue Nation was finding the leak or finding what's going on and who is the Rogue Nation. and Ghost Protocol is basically trying to find out who was the asshole that told people things. Okay, so I mean, Mission Impossible is. I mean, I'm never going to diss Mission Impossible. I think it's a good film. Next thing I'm going to talk about is James Bond. James Bond. What do you think of the current situation with James Bond? Because I'm talking of the Craig era from 2006. Rank. I want you to rank. Also, I want you to tell me what you think so far of what's happening in the series, and also I want you to answer me what's your favourite film with Daniel Craig, and also your favourite scene with Daniel Craig as James Bond.
It's difficult. It is difficult. I guess the fun part of me is like kind of like enjoyed that scene in Skyfall. You know when he was like setting up the house. I had a very fun Home Alone vibe. But what I loved is Inspector. You know that chase scene with the cars and eventually going into the lake. That was quite
Yeah,
fun. I
yeah, yeah,
enjoyed
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a good scene. That was a very good scene. It was going back to classic James Bond, that wasn't it? Very,
Yeah.
very classic James Bond. Um, I personally don't know whether or not to say this, but I think my favourite scene's in Casino Royale. I've always thought Casino Royale is the best of the Craig era, just because of how well made that film was. It was it was very it was coming back. The franchise was coming back. From basic death, and this movie came out of nowhere and surprised the hell out of me. Um, by the story was tense. It was very oh god, it was very hard work to understand what was going on some of the times actually because of how ambiguous it was trying to be.
What were
Uh,
you expecting from that? Like, were you expecting like did you go in with high expectations or low expectations?
I can't remember. It's 2006, Joel, Mr. Brightman. It was 10 years ago, Joel. I can't understand why I would remember that. But apart from the fact that I've now watched it frequently in the later years to come, and I've just been like, wow, that movie was insanely good. Just because um, it's tense. It's very tense. I mean, that the one of the best scenes in that film is the scene when James Bond himself gets poisoned, and they're trying to find out what has poisoned him, and they're running around shouting like maniacs, and then someone comes up and says Digitalis, and I just go, oh my god, this is excellent. And then that scene where he's trying to defibrillate himself and he dies. Yeah, we know he's not really going to die, but that scene itself, to someone who has never seen James Bond, would have been like, oh my god, he's actually going to die. I was unbelievably entertained by that movie, and also Martin Mickelson as Le Chiffre is possibly the best Bond villain I've seen for a while. I mean, I don't like. I mean, I'm nothing against Christoph Waltz, play in Spectre. I have absolutely nothing against this guy. I think he is a fine actor, is Christoph Waltz, but I genuinely don't know whether or not to say this. But I think the problem with Christoph Waltz's villain was that it was just too safe. They were doing off old standard. It was just too safe. And that I don't know whether or not that's just my opinion, but that pissed me off because I was expecting so much more from Christoph Waltz, so much more, and this movie's come out of somewhere, and I've just gone what? And it was don't get me wrong, I'm not a complete and utter Grinch by saying it was just an awful film. I say it was there was good scenes and there was some really silly scenes, but I think and also what what is the bloody problem with Daniel Craig at the minute? I mean, Spectre seemed like he was phoning it. He was phoning it in, and it was just it just told me that he didn't want to be there anymore, and it saddened me a little bit because Skyfall was good, Spectre was average, kind of faulty, uh, Quantum of Solace was dog shit, and Casino Royale was just incredible. Where and the question I want to ask who who is your pick to be the next James Bond?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to ride with the popular choice. When everyone's like, "Oh, we need Idris Elba," that would be okay. I don't think he's my main choice, at all. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't want to like put someone in my mind to like, you know, think this is what it has to be like. Whoever they pick, I'm sure will be fine. I was just quite curious. That question when I asked you what your mindset was going into the film. Because I found that, like, would you say that in terms of your enjoyment of films, you prefer the ones that prove you wrong? Central Intelligence in your review, you said I thought it was going to be bad. You enjoyed it, good review. Same with Ghostbusters. I was just kind of curious,
I
of
mean,
your psychology.
the problem. I mean, oh yeah, okay, we can't. I mean, I can't put Ghostbusters in the same respect. I mean, no, I don't know if how many people in the world could argue with me and say that Ghostbusters marketing campaign was a complete shambles, because their trailers were they didn't number one. I don't think they made sense if you watch them, and then they were trying really hard. Like the first trailer it came out, it said 20 years ago they, sorry, it was 30 years ago, the ghosts were coming, and now today they're coming back. It was just like, oh, for the love of God, this is a remake. This is a continuation. But in the end, it actually turned out to be a reboot, and they'd restarted it. And when I saw the film, I went in with such low expectations. I came out smiling because I actually thought they had done a decent job. Now that is strange because I not normally come out of films that I slag off before I go and see, and then come back in and say, "Wow, that film was surprisingly good." Now, that's just me, I'm afraid. Quite a lot of the internet don't have the same opinion as me. I think quite a lot of the internet think I'm an idiot for liking that. I mean, if you look at the video now, it's got quite a lot of dislikes. Now, I can understand dislikes because I I know I understand my view is not popular. So, but
Yeah, that,
I mean,
yeah,
you talk about expectation levels. For James Bond films, I've always had the expectation level that the film is actually going, it's going to be smart, entertaining, and thrilling. Whereas I thought it made a mockery a little bit. Did Spectre? It wasn't smart. It wasn't clever. It was just eh. Um,
yeah, I agree. I agree.
well, I mean, James Bond's always going to be one of those franchises that us Brits like, isn't aren't we?
Well, I don't think it was a mockery as such. I think it was a step down, which is not where it looked like the franchise was heading. That was the most crushing part. They built a nice modern day foundation, and to have it not necessarily shatter, but just take such a cliched tone for something so iconic, that was the most painful part.
Yep, very much agree. So there is two more parts to this podcast I want to talk about. One of them is Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, as lots of people who watch the channel know, um, we did a podcast last week where we talked about most of the topics we talked about today. I've just added a few more in. And we did Pirates of the Caribbean chat last week. But unfortunately it didn't work out. So we're going to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean now. So, Joel, what do you think of Pirates of the Caribbean?
I think, and I don't know. I think it's not looking good because of the past record. The first one I really liked. The second one had one of my favourite scenes in. The third one was mediocre at best. The fourth one I was not a big fan of whatsoever, but I did prefer it to the third one. Now, where it's going now, I think it looks like a cash grab. But I have respect for Johnny Depp in thinking that he wouldn't have returned if he didn't think that it had some merit to it, after all this time. Unless he
Have
just
you?
wants a paycheck, but I
I
think
mean,
he's
have
well
you?
respected.
I mean, have you seen the trailer for the new one yet? Have you seen the trailer for Pirates of the Caribbean
Yeah,
on?
I think that kid.
I mean, if I'm honest with you, it's got the villain from Skyfall in it, Javier Bardem. I mean, I'm interested to see where they go with it because up until this point, we don't know what the hell we don't know the story. We don't know what's going on. And I mean, the trailer looks it's promising, but well, I don't know what's going to happen. I think this film is touch. I think this film is touch and go. I mean, you say about the Pirates of the Caribbean 3, you didn't like it. Yep, I think it's
You know, I definitely think there's a connection.
I know exactly what you mean because the third one for me was really really bad. I mean, I've never seen a movie that I actually thought was kind of it squandered its potential a little bit too much, and that kind of annoyed me. But the film itself, it made a bit of sense, not a lot though. But this next one, I am questioning what's going to happen. Um,
Who's set to return? Is Orlando Bloom coming back? Keira
yes,
Knightley? Is
Orlando Bloom is coming back, but Keira Knightley is
or
not. I did, I have no problem with Keira Knightley not coming back because I never liked her in the first place. But I meant to, this trailer was promising,
ah,
very promising. Even though we didn't get to see much, we only got to see the scene with Javier Bardem in it. The rest of it was just it leaves up to your imagination on what's going to happen. For once, Disney have released a trailer which doesn't have spoilers in it. Thank God, thank the world, because usually we can't watch a movie. Oh, we seem to have I seem to have lost Bryman. Um, if you could just re in with me, we shall regain contact with Bryman. Right. So okay, we're back.
yeah.
We're talking, and I mean, it's promising, the new Pirates film. I want to just get to it. Last question I want to ask you about Pirates of the Caribbean is: why did you think the third one failed?
I think it went for spectacle and instead of character and didn't succeed in either.
Okay.
Or
Um.
maybe scope is the right word for it, yeah, scope.
Yeah. The scope of that movie was beyond what it was hyped up to no man's belief, and I personally feel like the movie could have been. I think the movie could have been miles better, but the film it fell flat on its face because there was too many storylines they were trying to force into one. There's the Jack Sparrow storyline, the Keira Knightley Orlando Bloom storyline, the Davy Jones storyline, Calypso storyline. There was too many stories, and there wasn't enough, sort of action telling you exactly what was going on at the same, what was going to happen. There was no. Also, I didn't feel like there was really any consequences to what was going to happen, even though the Armada was going to destroy them. Yeah, it still to me didn't feel like that was it was going to happen.
Yeah, it was very much like it kind of felt not like a different world, but a different level of existence. Like the other two, you felt that even though like there were smaller stakes, it felt real. You could relate to the characters and how the events would impact them. With this one, it was just let's chuck as much garbage that we can find on the screen and hope they enjoy it.
Yeah, that it annoys me when studios do that. It does really annoy me. That does. Um, but you know, I I suppose this is coming on to my last question, really, that I have, which is um, with franchise movies. What do you think the best franchise movie is that has never lost its its edge? What franchise do you think has never lost its edge? Do you think is there a particular film series that has never declined in quality?
Is there a movie limit? Like, are we talking sequels, trilogies? Like,
It could be anything. I will discount Marvel from the equation just because that's just it's obvious that everyone is going to have the opinion that wow, Marvel movies are the most amazing things in the world, whereas I just sit here and go, yeah, I'm getting bored of them now.
but the Winter Soldier kicked the first Avengers ass. That's what I will say.
No, 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 no. I hated the Winter Soldier, so I can't
Really?
comment.
You hated the Winter Soldier and enjoyed Ghostbusters. That says a lot, man.
Wow, thanks. Doesn't mean I can't. I'm not being bitter. I'm just saying I wasn't as in. I'm not interested in Captain America, so I'm not gonna like it. So I sat there and watched it for about an hour and just thought, I don't like this. Just because the story arc, it's trying to build a tension around a certain character, and the
Yeah,
tension.
reviews are very much it's opinionated. It's all opinions. That's why I think reviews are one of the more interesting things because everyone's gonna have their own opinion. I enjoy it. Because if we both had the same opinion about every film, this podcast would be so boring, wouldn't it? Like just us two circle jerking each other. Like I think it's good to have a different opinion.
I was gonna say, difference of opinion is always the best thing in the world. Um,
Now
so
I do think you would highly benefit from a third co-host, but that's
I,
just me.
I'm not sure, Joel. Mr. Bryman, I'm afraid I can't say as of yet if we can get another one. I could probably. I mean, I've got someone who is a film aficionado who knows a lot about movies, who can probably come in and do it. I mean, in fact, he's our special guest today, and I was asking him questions relating to Transformers and Pirates of the Caribbean, and also just sneakily bringing in Luke Cage,
Ah.
which is going to
Ah.
be my subject, which is going to be our subject next podcast. Or if you stick around at the end, it'll be a podcast extra.
Brilliant.
So
Well,
we will, yeah. So with that in mind, I'll say goodbye from the podcast for now. I'm Steve from Review Shark.
and Brian.
Okay, and this was Review Network's second podcast, and our special guest was Mr. Tom, and here it is talking about Pirates of the Caribbean. We shall see you next time. Bye bye.
Ooh.
Hey guys, it's Steve here. Just a quick thing to say that we couldn't. The interview that took place is not allowed to be put on the podcast. This is due to the fact that our interviewee didn't want his interview and his comments and views to be made public. Uh, it's a bit upsetting, but in the end, I respect his wishes, and it's okay. We remain friends, and the channel still remains his friend. He has agreed to do a live interview with us on one of the shows, which then we can put it on there. But unfortunately, as it's a pre-recorded one, his opinion has changed over time, and he has said he doesn't want to make his thing public. I apologise, and I will see you later. And just for a special treat, because we couldn't get the interview together, I have compiled the podcast extras where we talk about Luke Cage. So enjoy that, and see you next time. Hello, welcome to the podcast extra from Review Network. I'm Steve from,
What's up, Avengers? Brian here.
and this is just a little side thing for people who are really interested to find out what our opinion is of Luke Cage. So, what is your opinion of Luke Cage?
I really, really enjoyed it. I think now if we can get into spoilers, do you reckon that is presented for
Oh,
that?
I mean, it's been out for a week and a bit now. Yes, I would have thought
Yeah,
spoilers were
people
okay.
have binge watched it by now. Now,
Yeah, I'd have said
I,
spoilers are absolutely fine.
now, I really, really enjoyed the start of it. Now, I don't know. You mentioned prior to this that there was a change in the writing halfway through, and if I'm not mistaken, that was to do with the Mariah Cottonmouth incident. Now, I
Ye-
actually really enjoyed that. To me personally, before that, I was right. This guy is another Wilson Fisk. They're gonna take him down in the same way. I was not expecting that twist, and whilst I didn't like how it was necessarily handled prior to that, or after that it wasn't it was a twist that I think was very well needed. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Now, when I say I mentioned halfway through, there is I think about 5 episodes in, it was kind of tense. I thought it was tense. The only problem I had with it was I felt the script writing got slightly lazy. I mean, the twist at the end was something I personally wasn't expecting because of I thought it started to tail off quite a bit, and I'm not going to spoil it, but you can if you wish. But I'm not going to spoil what the twist is. But I feel like the twist, this series needed the twist at the end so it could hook you in, so that it left you asking questions on what's going to happen next.
No, I didn't enjoy it as much because the twist at the end, it's difficult, and it's the way I felt with the way the Avengers Age of Ultron handled Iron Man 3. You know, the impact of the last installment is irrelevant. You know, how are they going to get him into the Defenders? You know, to me that's interesting. I know the Iron Fist trailer dropped like today or something, but it gives me questions about how they'll handle the Defenders series.
Question: with Luke Cage being out, I think I want you to give me your ratings out of 10, please.
What, just for Luke Cage?
Yeah, for Luke Cage. I mean, I'll talk a bit. I mean, I'll say in a minute. We'll discuss. I want to discuss a bit. I just want to talk a bit about Daredevil after this, but and then after that we'll end this extra. So, out of 10, what is your review for Luke Cage?
7.8, maybe 8.
I mean, I would personally myself, I gave it an 8 just because I thought it was good, but it wasn't amazing. It gets my stamp. It gets my stamp of approval, but it doesn't get my full signature. That's
It
what I'll
did.
say.
It was a series with like major balls though. Like a Marvel film has yet to drop the F bomb, and they drop like an N bomb every other episode in this. I think it was definitely very ambitious in terms of MCU. You know, maybe that's not enough. You know, you can't just say, you know, they did something edgy, so it must be quality. But it did do a good job in handling the, you know, more mature, controversial themes. You know, like
Yes.
Black Lives Matter and all that.
Yeah, I agree. I very much agree. But I mean, this, I there are many reasons why I gave it an 8, and you give it a 7. So I'd say it averages at about 7.6. I thought.
Yeah, not
So
bad.
that's
Quite nice.
our review. So now I want to talk to you a bit about Daredevil. Now, what do you think of Marvel's Daredevil?
The first series is one of my favorites. You know, I think it was not just action packed, but it had good characters, and it was also sophisticated, which I think the second series kind of lacked. But that's one of my favorites.
I think Daredevil made me smile the most because the film with Matt. Sorry, not Matt. Why do I say Matt Damon? It's not Matt Damon. It's Ben Affleck. I thought that film was so catastrophically poor, and this one was so. This series, it it built up it made me feel for the character, which is something it didn't do in the film. I felt for the character. I understood the character, and I like the actor. I think he's a really good actor. I think he's very, well. I think it's well cast. The story arc for the first season was extremely good, extremely tense, fun, entertaining, sometimes kind of funny. But and then the second series, it built up to all this amazing. Thought it was going to be so good, and then I sort of thought, yeah, it's a bit disappointing, just because it's not as tense, not as action packed. It's just a bit, second season jitters, I call it.
Yeah, if it was a film, it would have been The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like, I'm not you're equating them on the same level, but the amount of like Elektra, Punisher, you had to run separate trailers for those two characters. Like, if it was a film, it would have been an absolute mess.
I think they burnt through quite a few movies worth of good material. A few series worth of good material in some of the stuff they were trying to pull off. I mean, with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, see, I enjoyed the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first one because the first one was kind of I thought it was quite fun. The second one, they said they weren't going to make the same mistake they did earlier, which is, I'm never going to believe them when they say that again because they made the same mistake again by making they had too many characters loaded into one, and it just became silly. That film did after a while. Elektra was dumb. The Green Goblin was dumb. But otherwise, I thought if you're going there wanting dumb fun, then you'll get it. It's not awful, but it's not really comic. It's not really
No,
comic book.
I lost a lot of respect for Amazing Spider-Man 2 just because they thought, look, the criticism for the first series, like the first movie, was this is too dark, this isn't like Spider-Man. So they make the second one, like the Rhino, was literally a cartoon character. Like, you've stuck to a theme, you're making it a darker film. Continue that. Don't, go, oh, the fans didn't like that. Some of the fans didn't like that that was dark. We'll make all this next one filled with jokes and kooky characters.
Yeah, yeah.
Stick to what you've decided. You've made your bed, sleep in it. I lost a lot of respect for the second film.
Okay, right. I get you on that one. Um, so okay, well that concludes this podcast extra. Thanks for listening, guys. Um, we will probably go into more detail next week about some Netflix series. Next week's film topic is going to be Star Wars, if Bryman can get round to watching them.
Yeah, I've done Phantom
If
Menace.
I was gonna say, if you can't get around to watching them all, it's not a problem. We'll talk about we'll talk a bit about Suicide Squad Extended Edition.
That sounds good.
Okay, okay. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you later. Bye bye.
See ya.